Welcome to the Pope High School Dual Enrollment Summit session. We're glad that you guys are here, and we're going to talk today about the specifics about Pope and dual enrollment. Hopefully you have already heard the general information that gives you the rules, the regulations, the basic information about dual enrollment. This part is going to be specifically about how Pope handles dual enrollment. We provide a dual enrollment webpage. As you can see here, I would encourage you to all go to this website and you will be able to find forms that are required for dual enrollment that you will need to complete, and also view link to this presentation, future presentations that may be posted, and all information that you need to know about dual enrollment. So just to give you a little bit of information about Pope's dual enrollment program, we have had about 50 to 60 dual enrollment students per year. The majority, not the majority, half of them are full-time, half are part-time. So we have a pretty good mix of ways students are accessing their dual enrollment classes. The majority of kids go to Kennesaw State or Chat Tech. Those are our closest dual enrollment programs. Every once in a while, we'll have a student that'll go to Georgia State or Georgia Highlands, and we always have a couple of kids every year who do Georgia Tech distance calculus. So those are the typical schools that our kids are attending for dual enrollment. Most of our students take English 1101. That by far is our most popular class that kids will take. After that, they're government and economic classes. Those are going to be political science, POLS 1101, or econ 1101, or there are several different numbers for econ depending on which college the student is attending that they could take that could meet that economics requirement. After that, I would say math 1111, math 1113, the college algebra pre-calculus, those are probably next. And again, depending on what level of math the student has achieved. And then psychology and sociology, those are always very popular classes as well. Some of our kids do like to take their world languages. Again, the most popular language would be Spanish. That's the class that the majority of our students here at Pope take as well. So some students will continue in their language. Some will pick up new languages like Russian or Japanese, even American Sign Language. I believe KSU still has that course. That's always an interesting class for some kids. And then CTAE electives at Chattahoochee Tech. So we have had a couple of kids the past year or two take welding classes. I've had kids do auto mechanics, business, computers, and really there's a lot more. I've had some kids do some design classes, some graphic type classes. And so there's a lot of really neat things that kids could do that are on the career side. So let's talk a little bit about what a full-time student would look like. They take 12 to 15 hours of credit at the college. Now, students who are watching this, you're probably not very familiar with what an hour is when you're talking about college. They're the way that college counts credits. The majority of classes are going to be 3-hour courses. Basically, that means that you are taking a class that meets 3 times a week for 3 hours. So that's a 3-hour class. Classes that have labs, like a science class, often will have a 3-hour lecture class, and then they will have a 1-hour lab class that goes along with it. So you'll end up signing up for 2 different sections for science classes because you have to sign up for a separate lab. They don't do the labs within the class like they do here at Pope. So, so most students who are doing full-time, they have to take at least 12 hours. Some take up to 15 hours. 15 is the max that you can take per semester. So that equals, if you do some good math there, it equals about 4 to 5 courses. And you can only do full-time for approximately 1 year before your dual enrollment hours are exhausted. As you heard in the prior session, you only get 30 hours total. And so if you are taking 5 classes in the fall, 5 classes in the spring, that's going to be 15 hours. And each semester, and added together, that's going to be 30. So you're going to max out everything. So some students will do part-time. We'll talk about that in a minute, and we'll look and see what that looks like. So to be a full-time dual enrollment student, you're not enrolled in anything with Pope or Cobb Virtual, Georgia Virtual. Everything that you do are college classes. This is going to be much easier to schedule. I'll be honest with you. The part-time kids sometimes have a lot of difficulty getting their classes to correspond with their Pope classes. So you're really only dealing with your college classes. So there's a lot more flexibility there. You don't have to deal with parking challenges that we have here at Pope. That is one of the biggest things that makes it difficult for students to do dual enrollment part-time is the parking. And that is a legit logistical issue that we have, and it just is what it is. It's going to be more challenging to get information from Pope and be involved. You still are a Pope student. You're still able to do all the different things that a Pope student can do, but you're going to have to be more diligent to look at the Greyhound News Network recordings, look at Hound highlights, talk to your AO teacher, go to the website. You have to be proactive in getting this information. Otherwise, you may miss out on some important stuff. So this is what a sample full-time schedule could look like. This is, I just made this up, but this could be what a student might be taking. So before we go into what the schedule actually looks like, I do want to direct your attention up to the top where it says 1 to 2 college semester hours equals a 0.5 high school credit. So when you take classes at the college, we're going to be converting those back to the high school, and you're going to get a half credit for 1 or 2 hour courses. So that lab that you take with the science, you're going to get a half credit for that. The majority of the other classes, like I said, are going to be 3-hour classes, and that equals a full high school unit of credit. So let's look down at the schedule that we have here. So in the fall, the student is taking at the college English 1101, chemistry in the lab, math 1113, which is pre-calculus, and then poli-sci 1101, which is their government class. Maybe this is a senior getting their last remaining classes they need to graduate. So if you add all those hours up, they're going to get 13 hours of credit. And then if we do the high school equivalent, this is how it's going to work out. They're going to get a full unit of English for 1 semester of class. Okay, so 1 class at the college equals a full high school English credit. Okay, same thing for chemistry. There's that 0.5 chemistry lab. And then they get a full pre-calculus and a full government. That's all in 1 semester. Okay, it kind of is like a block school if you have friends that go to schools, high schools that are block schools. So the student's going to get 4.5 units of high school credit from that particular schedule. And then you can look at the spring schedule, a little similar. So they're taking English 1102, which is the next part after English 1101. Most colleges are going to require kids to have 1101 and 1102, and then possibly a literature class later. Psychology 1101, math 1190, which is calculus, and then econ 1101, and you can see how those break down. So the math, this particular math class is a 4-hour class, and that's not unusual. Sometimes the higher level math classes do award 4 hours. So again, this kid is getting 13 hours of credit, and then the high school equivalent, you can see how each of those classes gets a full credit. So the grand total for this particular student is 26 hours. So they're pretty close to that max amount, and then 8.5 high school credits, where here at Pope, you typically get 6 max total high school credits. This particular student is going to get 8.5. So part-time is where we start to get a little bit more tricky. We have to be a little bit more flexible. We have to be a little bit more understanding that sometimes things don't always work out. But let's talk about part-time, because we have a lot of kids who do part-time. So they are going to be taking a combination of Pope and dual enrollment classes. They're going to have to make sure that their combination of classes, however many they take at the college and however many they take at the high school, the end total high school credit amount has to be at least 3 units a semester, because in order to be a full-time Pope student, you have to be taking 6 classes in the fall that equal 3 units. Basically, we're looking at the units of credit, okay? And then you have to earn 3 units of credit in the spring. So we'll look at an example of what that would look like in just a few minutes. So students determine whether they want their Pope classes to be in the morning or afternoon. That's the first thing I would say that the student needs to figure out. Do I want to take my Pope classes in the morning or afternoon? And you're going to build everything based on that information. And you also need to know what classes you're planning to take at Pope. So, and that's part of what we will discuss with you during our counselor advising session, which we'll get to that in a minute. So please think of changing bell schedules when you're thinking of what you might take and where you might want to take them. our bell schedules are crazy. We have a lot of different bell schedules. I mean, we've got a digital bell schedule, okay, right? Because we're all virtual right now. We have an X block schedule when we come back face to face. We have AO on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays is the X block. Sometimes we switch X block to be on Fridays, such as if we were in a normal schedule. I'm recording this the Friday before Labor Day, and so usually we would put X block on a Friday before a long weekend to give everybody a chance to get out of town earlier. And have a little bit of a longer break. So that happens. Pep rally schedules, we don't do a lot of those, but that's a different bell schedule that you might encounter, the Cobb County early release schedule that backs everything up to end at 11:30. So all of these different things could impact your dual enrollment schedule and your ability to go to class one way or the other, okay? Think about your extracurricular activities, when your sports meet, when your clubs meet, AO, are you going to try to be here for AO, or is that something you're going to give up and just try to figure out announcements on your own? Transportation and parking, this is the biggest. Like I said earlier, we have very limited parking space, and we don't give priority for any kind of special program students are in. We go strictly based on seniors get first dibs, and then juniors get lottery of the remaining spaces. So there's no guarantee that a dual enrollment student would get a parking space. Singleton courses, so we always have students who are interested in a specific course like yearbook, or maybe they're in a specific band class, orchestra class, chorus class, maybe they're in the third level of graphic design or video production, whatever. There might be, but there's only one section of that class. There's no guarantee that that class is always going to be where you imagine it to be. For years and years and years, this is a great example, yearbook has been first period, and this year, yearbook didn't get scheduled into first period. It just wasn't possible to do that. We were not able to get all of the students into that class by keeping it that period. We had to change it to a different period in order for us to get the majority of kids in there. And so it just happens that way. I mean, creating a master schedule is like a big logic puzzle, and it doesn't always work out the way that we think it's going to work out, or the way that it has worked out in the past. We don't copy and paste from one year to the next. We build our schedule based on interest and what students are wanting to take. So all that being said, absences and tardies are not excused for dual enrollment. You have to factor in the extra time for parking, walking to and from your car to the class. What if someone here at Pope is parking in your parking spot and you have to figure out where to park? You know, there's all these little nuanced type things that you have to keep in mind. Bottom line is no classes should overlap at all. We don't want any students to be late or miss Pope classes. We don't want students to miss or be late for their dual enrollment classes. We really want to keep those as separate as possible. So because of that, you have to be flexible, and you have to realize that even though we try to schedule everything and you try to anticipate things, sometimes things just don't work out the way that you anticipate, and we might need to make adjustments.